Gentlemen, welcome to the Be the Man podcast. I'm your host, Kyah Denning, and today we have two very special guests, particularly so because they're the first women to be on the Be the Man podcast, and they're my daughters. And they are beautiful and talented and awesome, and it has been an absolute joy to be their father, even though they didn't have a whole lot of say in the matter. They just showed up and they were born that way. But we've had an amazing life, an absolutely amazing life. And our oldest, Kyah, is 21 and is engaged and going to be married soon. So this is the last time she's with us as a single person. And actually, this is the last time. It felt like the last time before, but this for real is the last time all 7 kids under the same roof here in Portugal in our house. She was doing service and missionary work in the Dominican Republic and just came back to stay with us. And we did that overlanding trip through Morocco. It was unbelievable. And then she's leaving tomorrow. Yeah. And then we're all going to Africa, Dubai and Africa tomorrow. And then our next oldest son, Parker, is heading off to do his mission and service work for a while. So this is it. This is the last rodeo before she gets married and is off. So, and then our daughter Aaliyah is 17 and is very mature. So I count these two as women. And then I have 2 little girls. So I wanted to have them on today to talk about the whole daddy-daughter thing. So thanks, you guys, for being on the podcast. And thanks for being awesome daughters.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
We're excited to be here.
So, you guys, I just wanted to kind of just talk about like what has been valuable and helpful for you with me as a dad, right? Because the ideal family is designed perfectly with having a mom and a dad. And there's tons you guys gained from mom. Hopefully you got a few things from me. And then obviously from your siblings, right? And just from life and experience. But I, being it's the Be the Man podcast, we're talking predominantly to dads. Like what has been important and valuable to you in that aspect from me as a dad? We're just kind of just whatever comes to mind here. We're just have this conversation about how we can all be better dads to our daughters.
I think for me, at least in like a typical family, usually the mom gives like a lot of love, and I feel like normally a mom and daughter will have a good relationship, because they're similar in thinking and attitude ways, I guess. So I think with the father, like it's important to let the daughter know that he loves you and you're like remembered, that he wants to spend time with you. And so I think even like one-on-one things, like for example, my dad and I, we both share like a passion in training our dogs. So like when we're not traveling, every single morning we train them or go on a walk with them. So it's like personal time, just one-on-one, like doing something that we both love. So it's like, and it's the same with every child, one-on-one time. But I think like I can have a relationship with my mom and not have to do, I guess, so much time because we just relate with things. But with the father, you can have like an activity that you both relate to, because since the opposite sexes, it's kind of hard. You don't always relate in things, but if you both have a passion that you're working on consistently, it builds that relationship.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great insight. And I look forward to it every morning. It's been something that we have in common. And you're right, because I don't know what it's like to be a woman. So there's all this like empty, blank, dark space where I'm like, I don't know what it's like to be a woman. And so, but you have that with mom, but not with me. So then we build on common ground as one aspect, is to find something we're both passionate about and do that together. And obviously we get to have cool experiences. We get to learn together. We get to make mistakes together. We get to see beautiful things, make mistakes. Like, I don't know, have a great time. And we have all those shared memories.
Yeah. Something that I was thinking about as Aaliyah was talking is that you're so deliberate at finding things to do with each of us. So, for example, like we have very different personalities, and Aaliyah and I are very different, but I think something you've done an incredible job at is finding ways to relate to each one of us, especially because all of us are different. And it's really funny because everyone in our family has a very like strong personality, but also just a very different personality. And so that's something that you've done for me a lot, is finding ways to relate and to, spend time with me on something that I am passionate about. And it's not like, oh, you know how like sometimes people pretend that they care about something, like you don't really want to play dolls with your kid, but they go and play dolls, and you like know that they don't want to do it. You actually find something that you're either really curious about or you actually get into it, whatever it is, so that you can have a one-on-one relationship with me and with all the other kids. And I think that's super important, because I know whatever like activity that we're doing or a conversation that we're having, I know that it's because you actually care about that thing and me. I know it's not like, oh, like I'm pretending to do that or I'm pretending to support you. It's like, no, like you went out of your way to learn about it or be interested in it and to actually like show up.
Yep, exactly. And well, I want to really emphasize you cannot fake this stuff. Like Kyah's saying there, you can't fake it, because you see through it. You guys would see right through it. If I was pretending to be engaged or pretending to enjoy myself, you'd see right through that. Mm-hmm. And so it's me deliberately deciding like, no, I'm all in here. I'm going to have a blast. Even if sometimes I'm like, well, I'm not as into that particular thing as maybe you guys are, but I'm like, I'm going to get into spending time with you and your love of that thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's been huge. And gosh, the thing I cherish the most is our shared memories. Mm-hmm. Like things that I've done with you, like I have those for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is so precious and so special to me. Especially now, Kyah, that you're moving out tomorrow and starting your family, getting married, and like literally going to change your name and start your family. Like I get to hold on to all the memories we have.
Yeah. And what I love is that I have so many of those. I remember when I first moved out, it was just really interesting. Like we were just talking, like with my roommates, I was talking about like families, trying to get to know them a little bit better. And I just remember thinking like, wow, I have so many memories with my dad that I love, that I want to share, that I want to talk about. I mean, I have friends that are like, I don't even know your dad, but I feel how much you love him and how much you want to be doing things with him and you want to be talking with him. Like, I love your dad too. And they don't even know that you have a podcast or anything. Like, it's just awesome that we have so many of those, because I know that you genuinely want to show up for me, and you do. You've done that my entire life.
Yeah, and just like, well, it was a deliberate choice early on to think, I want to have a full stack of memories. Well, because I didn't have that, right? So I grew up without a dad. And so I think I have maybe 3 memories with my dad. And I don't remember, were you guys in that conversation? I don't remember. Somewhat recently we were talking about, do people have any fun memories with their fathers? Were you guys in on that?
Yeah.
And they couldn't, they're like, I can't, they couldn't remember fun memories with their dads. And I was like, man, we have tons, and we're stacked. And what advantage we have, one of the huge advantages we have in our family is travel memories. Mm-hmm. Like the very first time you and I went to Paris, Kyah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right? And then, what was our first big one, Aaliyah? Was it Mongolia? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And and China on that trip, and Korea, and suffering, like suffering together. Right? Suffering together is a common thing. So we're having these spectacular experiences, but then also like the shared suffering of that travel experience was brutal. Or other times when we couldn't sit on those saddles. We were riding horses in Mongolia, and we all were sitting with our butts off the edge because we were in so much pain. But yeah, all those beautiful places. I went to Guatemala with you multiple times. We went to these adventure camps because you were the oldest, so we started doing trips with you.
Yeah.
And I get to hold on to that now.
Mm-hmm.
It's so awesome.
And there's no better way to build or strengthen a relationship is doing fun things that you both love, but also pushing those limits of comfort. And so sometimes it sucks, but you're both in it together, and you just can't help laughing because you're like both kind of feeling miserable at that moment. But then you look back and like, that was so fun.
Yeah.
And we grew, and our relationship is better.
It makes such a great story.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining some of the dads are asking like, well, how do I get my daughter to do that? Like, how did you guys want to go out and have adventures and experiences with me? Like, what was the driving force, especially if you knew it was going to be hard?
I think that's like my biggest bragging right for me is like I know without a doubt that my dad's my biggest cheerleader, and that he always has been and always will be. Like that's something that I have no doubt of. And I think because my dad's shown up to celebrate me so consistently, and even maybe like I did things or I did whatever, like my dad's just so good at expressing his love and like saying like, oh, good job, or I'm proud of you for this thing or whatever it is. And I would say to another father, for especially their daughter, I think they need to hear those things. I think in general women need to hear that.
Yes.
And especially a daughter from her father.
Yep.
You know?
Because, gosh, you're right. Daughters, we have to remember this, gentlemen. Daughters are women. And even when they're little, they're just like, they're women inside this teeny little package, right? So I have a 7-year-old and 9-year-old. They're still women. Like, they're little girls, but they're women. And they're going to grow up to be women.
Yeah.
And women have to be, they want and need it to be cheered and celebrated, and like they're right there. Like, I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. Like, go chase your dreams. I'm right here.
Yeah. And I think then as you get older, when things get harder, I think a lot of daughters realize that they don't, like, the father hasn't built enough trust that they can rely or lean on their dad. Like, I know that your dad, like dad, you're a rock, that you're a solid, and that I can trust you, and that you got me. And I think one of the main points, I think, when that really clicked was we were hiking a volcano in Guatemala, and I did not train for it at all. And it was, like, literally the hardest thing. I forgot
about this.
And I felt so sick while we were hiking it. It was just not it. And I hated every second of it. And everyone had already, like, gone to the top and was turning around to go back down to the bottom. And I had, like, gotten to the point where I was, like, the summit was, like, right there. It was probably, like, another 30 minutes. And my dad had already taken pictures at the top, already went to the top, and everyone was coming down. And you stopped, and you were like, do you want to go to the top? Oh, I might cry. And I was like, yeah, I want to go to the top. And you went back to the top when you could have been like, oh, it's okay, you did good job. And, like, I sat and cried because I was like, this is so hard. But you're like, no, we got this. Let's go to the top. And you didn't rush me when we got to the top. You're like, let's take pictures. Good job, Kyah. Like, what'd you learn? How can I help you? Like, how can I improve? Like, and I think that for me, I was like, wow. Like, he was with all these other people. Other people wanted to spend time with him, but he stopped everything that he was doing to go and summit something with me. And he celebrated me. And, like, he didn't, I don't know, like, I just remember that's when I realized, I was like, wow, like, my dad's my biggest cheerleader, and he wasn't like, oh, why didn't you train, blah, blah, blah. He was like, wow, good job, Kyah. And that for me was like, wow, like, I want to be a better person. And I realized, wow, my dad is my biggest cheerleader, and he built that trust where I know, like, anything happens, I can call my dad, he'll figure it out, you know, or he'll help me figure it out, and that he's my biggest cheerleader. But it's like how you showed up for me when it for me was a big deal, because I think you could have been like, oh, whatever, like, everyone's already summited.
Well, and I was exhausted, like, yeah. So it was a big hike. I knew we had a long way out, and my legs were cramping up. I was spent, and I got down there, and you go down like the steepest part there, and get there. I'm like, okay, like, if she wants to go back up, I'm gonna push through the pain. Like, who cares what my legs are screaming? Like, if Kyah says yes, I'm going back to the top. and then drop down again, right? And so I had to walk through this as like, no, this is for you. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll do what I've got to do as a dad to make sure you have the experience you want to have. And that was it. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's like, I think you've done a great job doing that, of self-sacrifice to help us achieve our goals and dreams. And you've always been like very selfless of that even with, if you want something, you're going to help us push to what we want and want to do.
Yeah. Well, and like I see that as my role, and gentlemen listening, like that's our role as dads, is we have to carry the most and do the most, not enabling. I mean, you guys have had to earn your way and do the work. I carried you when you were little, but after a while I'm like, get your butt up the hill. Right? But I have to be willing to do the extra work. I have to pick up any slack. And knowing that, especially early on, I started realizing, I'm like, gosh, I've got to make sure I'm in this position to be able to carry the extra, to do the extra part, which literally included carrying you guys when you were little. Like, we go out on big hikes, and I ended up with 2 or 3 of you on me. I'm like, oh, man. And we started traveling. Kyah was 4.
Yeah.
We started traveling, and Aaliyah was like 3 months old. And because at 4-year-olds, you can barely carry a teeny little backpack at 4, and then you're like, you don't want to. So I became the pack mule. And I realized, at that point, you're like, man, let's not travel. It's too much work for me. Let's not go on these ventures. It's too much work for me. When everybody gets tired, when all the little ones stop, like, I could have stopped, but I was like, no, I want you guys to have these experiences, so I'm going to carry the load, which just means I have to stay on top of my game.
Yeah, and it's I love it how my parents said, like, it was hard at first traveling and going on hikes and stuff, because my dad ended up carrying most of us. But he didn't stop. He wasn't like, this is not working. None of you walk, so why are we doing this? Like, he kept doing it. So now we have these memories since I was a baby of going on hikes and doing adventures. Even though it's hard, we're still all doing it. And, like, we don't look back on it as a negative experience. Like, my dad pushed through to create those experiences, and now we all love
you guys
those
all
adventures.
love it.
Do you guys remember the 5? I don't even know if it was really 5 miles.
Yeah.
But like that 5-mile hike that we did. Where was it?
And it was the Slot Canyon in Capitol Reef National Park.
Yeah. Okay, so that was forever ago. It was a really long time ago, and I remember that being like the hardest thing that has like ever been done. I was like, wow. And I just remember we were little. Like, I think I was like 8 or something. And I'm the oldest. So everyone, and their whole family went. So everyone was, a lot younger than that. But I just remember, like, that was like a hard thing. And you were carrying, like, pretty much everyone except for me.
But it took way, way longer. So it went dark. We had no flashlights. We ran out of food and water. I was carrying 3 kids. Mom was carrying somebody. Yeah,
I was the only person.
It was
walking.
You're the only walking out. It was a doozy.
But I remember it was so fun.
Right,
Playing in the
exactly.
water, playing in the mud.
Like, that was the best thing ever. And Mom and I walked out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just grateful we made it back to the car and didn't like spend the night out there. But I had to do that so that I wanted you guys to love adventure. And I'm like, the only way you're going to love adventure is you get to your limit, wherever that limit is, and then I pick up the slack.
Well, and you had such a great attitude about it, too. Like, you're like, oh, we're Dennings. We do hard things. And, like, we were, like, singing songs as we were walking. And you're, like, holding all these kids. And I was little, too. Like, I didn't know that. I just remember being, like, such a long hike. I'm like, whoa, Mom, we're strong. Like, we can do things. We can do things that are hard. And I remember for a long time, like, yeah, we did this hike, and it was crazy hard.
And we made it fun.
Fun. And so then it goes into, like, we're older. We do other things. And we're like, oh, as a family, we know that we can get things done. We have this, like, built-in system of, like, oh, we're strong. We can do hard things. And that comes down because you decided to pick up the slack, And
I think, Dad, you've always had a super positive mindset. So I think it would have been a totally different situation if you had been, like, mad. Like, if you're upset at us that you had to carry us all and that you weren't happy that we were walking. Like, you had a super positive mindset about it. So as a child looking back, we just think, oh, Dad was having a fun time. We were having a fun time. Like, He was just laughing the whole way. So, like, just as a child, that's what you're going to remember.
Yeah,
like,
you're mirroring what I'm putting off, and that's what you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, there were some bad days when you guys would not walk. Especially, Aaliyah, you and Kimball. They went through this period, you guys. We lived in the Dominican Republic, and we went through this period where you guys refused. You absolutely refused to walk if there was any grain of sand on your feet. And we lived at the beach. And I was like, are you kidding? I would get so mad. Like, just walk. You were toddlers. You could walk, but neither of you would. The two of you was like, And I'm like, fine, we're leaving you here. It worked with all the other kids. Like, we'll walk around the corner. Like, they'll come. You guys wouldn't come. You just stand there like, so I'm like, oh, man. And so I go back. But then it was a couple of times, like, I got frustrated at those points. And you guys just cried. And that broke my heart. Because, like, I'm being lazy or whatever. Well, it was hotter than blazes. I had carried two kids, and you guys were heavy kids. You were all heavy kids, and so I'm carrying. But you would cry. I'm like, and then I felt terrible. I'm like, I can't make them cry. So, and then it would be a bad association or a bad experience. So I'm like, no, we're not doing that anymore. And so I had to recreate all of that because I wanted you guys to love life, to love adventures, to do hard things, to chase your dreams, to get back up after you fail. Right? Just to be alive. And you're doing that. And it's awesome. What else has been significant?
I think as a child I always looked up to you and like kind of my older brothers as well. Like example is like cliff jumping. Like I always remember as a child I was so scared. But just seeing that you guys were doing it and you guys were having fun, and even though it was scary, like, you're just still doing it. And I just remember thinking, like, I want to do that when I'm older. Like, I want to do scary things. But the biggest thing was that my dad was doing it. He was facing his fears. He was having awesome adventures, and he was having fun doing it. And, like, that, just to have someone to look up at and who's doing awesome things, like, I want to do that too. Like, and my dad, like, he's a capable man, so in my mind, like, whenever there's something scary, like, I know my dad can handle it. Like, if something goes wrong, like, the slim chance something might go wrong, my dad can handle it. He's there to save me, if I fall or if something happens. And there's been times where I did get hurt, but my dad has always been there and so now in my mind, like, it's okay. So if I get hurt, that's fine, because now I have someone who's there to support me and help me. Which, again, thank you for sharing that. So that's one of a primary role of a dad, is to be there for security detail. Mm-hmm. That's usually I'm the security detail. Or, yeah, if something goes south, whose job is it to package things up and make it right? It's mine. Right now, I've trained all you guys and taught you how to do all that stuff, and you help, but, like, it lands on me. And I love that. I love hearing it explained. It's like you're willing to take risks because you're like, if something goes off, like, Dad's here. Mm-hmm. And you two lucked out because in between both my daughters, I have the two sons. And when we started doing scary things, I grabbed them and threw them off the cliffs. They had no choice in the matter. I was like, you're going. And I literally threw them in. And then you two came along afterwards. And it's just been so fun. Well, yeah. Like, the thing with... in Mexico, there's cenotes, which are just, like, water holes. And I remember, like, that's how I learned how to swim, is my dad just chucked me in there. But, like, always... And it was scary, but always in the back of my mind, I knew that my dad wouldn't do it if it was safe. Like... Yep. If it weren't safe. Yeah. I know he can assess the situation. So even though it was scary and I thought I'd drown, like, I know my dad's right there to save me. So even though he pushes me, like, it's gonna be okay. And I think that's important as a dad. You're the encourager and you push your children to push past their limits, but you're also there to protect them and help them if something goes wrong. Yep. Love that.
Yeah. That's something that I love, is that I know that my dad's going to kind of tell it to us straight. Like, he's not going to sugarcoat things. I was having a conversation with my dad and my fiance. My dad was just like saying it how exactly it was about marriage, about everything. And that's something I really appreciate because one, I actually appreciate that he'll do it. And when he does say it, it's like, but I know he cares about me. And I think what I've seen happen to a lot of like my peers, like daughter and father relationships, is that there's like that lack of trust or that like know that their dad's is actually on their side or that they care or that they push them but also support and love them or leading by example. There's a lot of incongruence in that in a lot of relationships. And so when a dad's like, I have to tell it to you straight, it comes off as like a huge attack and then it becomes a fight or it's like my dad actually hates me or people think that. But with you, you've done such a great, you push me to be so much better. And you'll tell me what I need to fix, but all at the same time, I know that you love me. You're on my side. You want to help me.
Yeah, exactly. All of that deep love.
You're always very good at like praising. You don't give it out like free, but when we actually do something that's hard and that was past our limits or comfort zone, you're always like, great job, that was amazing, and like making us feel like awesome that we achieved that thing.
And what's happening in me whenever you guys have done anything good, like it's like that proud dad moment, man, and it's incredible, and I just get filled and thrilled to watch you guys do things and to see who you have become and who you are becoming. It's so exciting to watch you do life. It's amazing. And now you're starting your own family. Yeah. I can't wait to be a grandpa. Holy God. Well, I'll wait. But wow! And for you to start your own family now and carry on the pieces of the legacy that you guys want to take into your family. Yeah. And the things you're doing with your lives. And, it's fun. Anything else come to mind that stands out as important or do's or don'ts that dads might appreciate?
I think also it's kind of with everything else, but knowing, like I know my dad's a very busy man, but when he takes time out of his day to spend time with his children, I think like he used to read to us every single night as children, and now like that's blossomed into that all of us love to read. We love books. Like it's one of my favorite things is just to read a great book. And so knowing that you're busy working, that you take time off to kind of like plant a seed into us. Like, and now that I'm older, I recognize that you spent like hours all together, like just reading to us, that now we love reading on our own.
Those are some of my all-time favorite memories.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
All-time favorite memories. And we read thousands and thousands and thousands of pages together. Do you guys remember I used to fall asleep?
Oh,
like
yeah.
mid-sentence. you guys are wide awake. And I'm like, Dad, wake up! And I was like mid-sentence. I'm like, I just fall asleep.
If someone asked me like my first memories with you, that's probably what I think of. Like, oh, my dad falling asleep while he's reading to us.
Oh, it's all the Betsy Tacy, all the Little House on the Prairie, the Wizard of Oz,
series.
And Narnia. Yeah, like long series. And we just went through all of it. And I cherish that so much. And
it was never, if we went to bed, in this house, like I remember it didn't matter where we were. We could be camping in our car. It'd be on the side of a trip, like a side of, like
anywhere.
Yeah. And you did it everywhere, and you made it super consistent. You just were you're very consistent, and I think that's another thing is, whatever kind of relationship you want to implement or to start to have with your daughter, make it consistent.
Yep.
Because I think also women like consistency.
Because it makes you feel safe and secure. Yeah.
And so I think if you're trying to improve your relationship with your daughter, be consistent in whatever you decide. Like if you're going to do daddy-daughter dates, be consistent about it. Because, again, that's such a core memory of all of ours, but especially mine at least, of you reading to us. But it was never, if I felt like it, or if I wasn't tired. It was like every single night I knew that Dad was gonna read to us, and we were gonna finish this book, and we had these series, and I always remember Dad being like, "Do you guys remember what we read last?" Because I forgot because I was sleeping, and then we had to tell him what happened, and then he would read it. But you were so consistent, and it didn't matter if you were tired, if we were camping, if we were all at someone else's house. It's like we all knew that was what's gonna happen, and we weren't gonna miss out on that.
It was such a great way to end every day together, and then every single morning we deliberately greeted you guys with smiles and hugs and excitement, starting with you, Kyah. Like first sign of consciousness from you, we adopted you. I would always and I remember thinking this, I want my kids to be happy, energized, excited for a new day. And so I'd go in and smile really big, and I used to squint when I smiled. I'd smile really big and squint. And you started doing that, and I was like looking at Rachel, I'm like, why does she squint when she smiles? And then I realized it was me. Like you were just mimicking my face, just doing this every time. Like, man, like that. So every time she woke up, she'd wake up and see me there, like squinting with a big smile, and you started doing it. It was so funny. So I'm like, okay, I gotta smile without squinting. But every morning, greeting you guys with excitement for life, and then finish the day by reading and thinking and spending time together. It's just been awesome.
Yeah. I love what you said, Kyah. It's like consistency, because I think women are more oriented of they need reminders, they need consistency. Whether men, you can do is one big thing and they'll kind of remember that, but women, they need. And I was just thinking of all the things I love doing with my dad. They're consistent, every single one of them. And the adventures we've had, facing fears, reading books, training dogs, working out together, it's all consistent. And so I realized that my dad actually loves me, and he loves spending time with me because we do this all the time. And that's so powerful to me. It's just the consistency and knowing that my dad values my time with him.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Gosh, I have such awesome exercise memories with both of you.
Yeah.
Like that, especially the time when you and I were doing the martial arts class. Actually, you too. We did martial arts. Separately, we did martial arts classes with each of you for a long period of time. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
And then I just remember hard workouts where we were just like, oh man, if I don't puke in this class, I'm just going to be happy to get out of here without vomiting. Or I love those memories. Yeah. It's hard workouts. So it's doing things that we love to do, things that are good in life. Exercising, making food. I've made amazing food with both of you, and I've eaten a lot of amazing food that each of you has prepared because you both love cooking so much. But
wait, can we talk about that for a second?
Go.
That's something that I've actually thought a lot of. I love cooking, and one of the things I love is when I would make something. I've been cooking for a really long time, since I was little, and I know I would make things that weren't good because I'd taste it and I'd be like, this is not it. Edible. But I spent so many, I remember being 10, when we lived in Guatemala, and I'd make this bread, and I was like, but I tried, and you weren't like, oh, this wasn't the best thing, but you're like, Kyah, good job for trying, and you realize the effort that I put in, or if I wrote you a note, you'd be like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for this note that you left me, or whatever it is, you found, and again, kind of what we were saying at the beginning, you found ways to be interested, because I don't know if you have a huge passion for cooking, but that's been a big part of things that you've done with Aaliyah and I.
And celebrating the effort, like you said. That's huge. I love that. Oh, man. So, good books that we've read or listened to together. Beautiful places. We've gone and served people together. I have special memories with each of you, helping and loving. And challenging ourselves, pushing our limits, facing our fears. I have very vivid memories with each of you doing scary things. And Kyah loves to just scream, and she just freaks out. And we have so many fun memories. You And then Leah, you just kind of get quiet in there, but then you do it. I mean, it's awesome.
Well,
It's
I
like,
remember the Via Ferrata in France.
Ooh.
I think that was a time where I was scared the most that I've ever been in my life. But I was just doing it with my dad behind me, and I just looked down at him, and I just breathe, knowing my dad's there, like, and I just kept going. And at the end, my dad was like, "I'm so proud of you. That was amazing." And I felt amazing. Like, I felt like I achieved something awesome. I'd faced my fears, and that my dad was proud of me for doing that, even though it was uncomfortable.
Yep. That was terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most scared I'd been in quite a while. That was a doozy. Whew. And then Kyah went bungee jumping when she was 4.
Yeah.
That was wild. It was a big, huge bungee jump. It was so fun. So again, like all these cool memories. So I guess, I mean, there's been lots of big takeaways. Thank you for your insights. But like we're trying to really live. And knowing full well that, well, the book Little Women, right? That's what she's saying. They're little women. What are girls? They're little women.
Mm-hmm.
And they grow up so fast to become women.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I mean, I never saw this day coming. I couldn't see that far off. Where I'm sitting in my office recording a podcast with my 2 daughters who are women. And it's just been an absolute joy to be your dad. And to love what you do and who you are. And celebrate the differences, the uniqueness, the fun, the commonalities. It's just been awesome.
It's been awesome.
Love it. Any last thoughts? Anything else that you think of that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think it's important as a father, because really you're the first man that she knows.
I was gonna say that. I
Like,
was literally about to say that.
You will be what she looks for in marriage. You will be what she sees the world. Half the world is, they're men, and she will see that in you and kind of cast a shadow of kind of how men should be, or
how she doesn't want her man to be. Because I have a lot of friends, they do that. It's like they either want someone like their dad, or they're looking for someone that's a complete opposite of their dad.
Yep.
And they decide that based off of their relationship with their father.
Exactly.
Sorry, Aaliyah, keep going.
No, that's good. And I think, Dad, you have done an absolutely amazing job of what a man should be, and like hope that there is other men out there that I would want to marry. And like, it's just inspiring the kind of man you are, and you, like, your toughness and your grit and your encouragement. It's just, I think it's so important to show your daughter what a man should be and what she should want in her future spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, right. And when we stop to think about it, you're right. It's the first man that your daughter gets exposure to, but it's the man she will know the best for years. I mean, Kyah, you moved out when you're 18. Mm-hmm. 18 years with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, you get to know and see, and that's the perception of men.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be done well.
Because, I mean, think about it. It's 18 years of your entire life. From your first memories till, like, you leave. You're seeing how he does business. You're seeing how he interacts with, your wife. Like, I saw, how you interacted with everyone else, how you showed up for work, how you did everything that you've done. And so that's my frame of reference. And so I leave, and then you see other guys, and you're like, I think unconsciously, people are comparing that to their dad, mm-hmm. or the other men in their life. Because, a lot of times, sometimes people don't have a dad that they look up to, or even a father figure, but they're looking for someone else. And it's really sad, because a lot of times people go, my dad didn't do this, didn't do this, didn't do this, didn't do this, didn't do this. And so then they marry the complete opposite of who their dad is or was, because they don't like their dad, or they don't want the relationship, or they're like, well, my dad treated my mom, like, my dad didn't love my mom, or they didn't get along. And so guys just don't get along. They're not agreeable. Yep. So if I'm fighting with this guy and it's never working out, well, my dad always fought with my mom. Like, that's what I saw so consistently. that's what to expect.
And it's going to create a lens or a paradigm through which they see life.
Yeah.
Well, and how you'd see your father treating your mom. Like, how, if it's not a good relationship and you just always see conflict and just not treating so well, like, how is the daughter gonna, it's a lot harder to see what kind of relationship you want. Like, because if that's what you see, you're like, oh, that's just how men treat women. And so then how are you gonna find the man that's gonna treat you well? Like, the father has to treat the wife like a queen. So then the daughter grows up like, I want a man like that, and then you figure out and know what you want in your relationship.
Yeah, because what's a little girl doing almost her entire life to accept future forecasting to being a woman? And so seeing that the marriage relationship, she's seeing like this close up. It's the how do you say it? It's the closest close up you'll ever see of a marriage. And what to do, what not to do. That's huge. And so I think, it's so insightful. A little girl is almost always seeing it herself in her mother. Like, I'm going to be a woman married to a man, and if that's off, that her whole reality is trying to make sense of that. But if it's on, then she's like, I want that.
And something I'd say to other men is, if you don't have a really good relationship with your daughter, I think you should ask yourself, do I want my daughter to marry someone like me?
Yep.
And then, because a lot of times that's kind of what ends up happening, is they don't even know who their dad is. Like, sometimes fathers don't even know who their daughter is. And I know a lot of girls that don't, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, tell me about your dad. Like, what's your relationship with that? And they have nothing.
Right.
And so it's just, that's like really sad, because like you said, we have this opportunity as children, especially as daughters, to see a really successful marriage. We can see that, and we should be able to see that. And I think that that's the responsibility of a man, is to lay down the path for us to model our lives off of. So when I see you showing up for mom, you're so consistent with mom, you do all these things for her, you work with her. And one of the things I love about you and mom's relationship is that you guys can talk about anything and you grow and learn together. And so that's something that I really love about my fiance, is that I can read something and I can talk to him about it, and I know that we can just keep talking about it and keep learning and growing and changing together, because that's something I've always seen with your relationship with mom, and I love that so much. And so I take things that I love and I've seen that worked, and you've been so consistent. I'm like, okay, I'm going to look for that in the kind of guy that I'm going to marry and date. And it just breaks my heart to see other people that don't even know their dad. Yep. Because when are you going to have this chance to see, like, that's the great thing about growing up, is you get to see how other people live their lives and then value the outcome of it and then make your own decisions of it.
It's beautiful. Build that relationship. It's so priceless. Awesome. Okay, thanks. Anything else? Nope. Good. Thanks, you guys, for being here. Love it. I love being a girl dad. It's the best. And there's something spectacularly unique and special about having daughters. Having boys is great. Having sons is great, but it is so not the same. And having daughters is an awesome privilege. And I've just been so grateful. What a blessing. So, gentlemen, if you have daughters, what a blessing. What an absolute blessing. This was awesome. It was great and insightful. And there's so much to do, and we have to keep leveling up and keep doing the difference. And that's literally, gentlemen, why I created the tools and compiled all the stuff into the Be the Man Masterclass and put in the tribe. It's on the Be the Man app. It's all there just for those reminders and the tools, the tactics, the systems, the strategies, so we can be optimized, because we've got to be on our game consistently in order to love and cherish, inspire, and raise our daughters. So thanks, fellas, for listening. Love you guys. Be the man.